Raider Nation, this is one of those weeks where the energy feels different. The season is still alive, but the margin for error is razor thin, and everyone knows it. The math is brutal. Sitting at 1 win and 3 losses is already a dangerous place to be. Drop to 1 win and 4, and the playoff hopes sink to about 5%. But turn things around with a win, and suddenly the odds shoot up close to 30%. That's not just a small bump. That's a massive swing in momentum. And for this new regime under Pete Carroll, this is exactly the kind of game that could set the tone for the entire year. Lose it, and you risk losing the locker room and a big chunk of the fan base. Win it, and suddenly the outlook doesn't feel so hopeless anymore. And let's be honest, this is not a team short on passion. Raider fans have always been ride or die, but right now, they're watching with a little more skepticism. The reality is simple. It starts at the quarterback position. Geno Smith has to step up. There's no way around it. Too many risky throws, too many turnovers, and at this point, he's leading the league with 7 interceptions. You just cannot win football games like that. When people start pointing out that his first 4 games in silver and black have looked worse than what Gardner Minshew or Jimmy Garoppolo managed in their early stretches, that's not just nitpicking. It's a serious concern. The Colts are allowing over 200 passing yards per game, sitting near the bottom third of the league. So if there's ever a week to look sharper and cleaner, it's right now. The plan has to be quick releases, decisive reads, and getting the ball out before that pass rush has a chance to break the pocket. Without Kolton Miller protecting the blind side, the pressure on Geno only grows. That makes the run game more important than ever. And last week we finally saw flashes of what it could look like when it clicks. Ashton Gentry exploded with more than 150 total yards and 3 touchdowns, proving he can be the spark that this offense desperately needs. Raheem Mostert also showed his big play potential with over 60 yards on just 4 carries, averaging an eye-popping 15 yards every time he touched the ball. Those are the kinds of stats that tell you this backfield can break games open, but consistency has been the missing piece. Indianapolis is strong against the run, holding teams to under 100 yards per game, and that's where the challenge lies. The offensive line, already shuffling players around, will need to find a way to create lanes. Jordan Meredith and JPJ will be tested heavily in this matchup, and if the ground attack stalls, this offense becomes far too predictable. The passing game outside of the top 2 wideouts has also been a sticking point. Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker can't do it all by themselves, especially with Brock Bowers still not fully healthy and Michael Mayer recovering from a concussion. That means rookies like Jack Beck and Dante Thornton have to step into the spotlight. The Colts defense has already given up nearly 60 catches and 6 touchdowns to opposing receivers, ranking near the bottom of the league in that area. That's an opening waiting to be exploited, but only if someone steps up. Defensive coordinators have been game planning by locking down Myers and Tucker, daring anyone else to beat them. If Thornton or Beck can make them pay, suddenly the field opens up and the offense starts to look much more dangerous. And don't forget about the tight ends. There were glimpses last week of creative sets with 2 tight ends on the field, and that could be key here. With the tackles struggling, having extra blockers on the edge is almost a necessity. Ian Thomas proved he can chip in on protection, while still being a reliable option in short yardage passing. Mayer, if he clears protocol, brings more size and versatility. And honestly, using Bowers more as a wide receiver while doubling up on tight ends could be a sneaky way to both help the line and create mismatches. The Colts have been relatively strong against tight ends so far, but that doesn't mean the Raiders should shy away from it. In fact, it may be the best way to mask the line's weakness and keep Geno upright long enough to make some plays. The offensive line as a whole, though, remains under the microscope. For weeks, it was the #1 issue dragging this team down. Then against the Bears, they held up surprisingly well, allowing just 3 pressures after giving up more than 50 through the first 3 games combined. That's a massive improvement, but it also came against a Chicago defense that hasn't exactly been elite. This week is a much tougher test. With Kolton Miller sidelined by that ankle, Stone Forsythe is set to take over at left tackle, and that is a spot the Colts will absolutely target. They've recorded 10 sacks already, ranking in the top half of the league. And if the Raiders can't slow that down, it could be another long afternoon. What this line needs to do is play physical, attack with outside zone runs, and give Geno confidence that he won't be buried every other snap. Dylan Parham, in particular, has been called out for inconsistency. But last week he looked like a different player, opening holes and winning battles in the trenches. If he can build on that, suddenly this line doesn't look quite as shaky. But let's not sugarcoat it. The pressure isn't just on the offensive line. The quarterback has to protect the ball, the receivers need to find separation, and the backs have to hit holes hard and fast. This is a game that will be won or lost on execution, not just talent. The Colts are a physical team. They play with toughness on both sides of the ball, and if the Raiders can't match that intensity from the opening kickoff, things could spiral quickly. So here's where the question becomes unavoidable. How much faith do you actually have in this team right now? Confidence is hard to come by when you're sitting with just one win in 4 tries. Some fans are still clinging to hope, while others are bracing for disappointment. And honestly, it's fair to be skeptical. A confidence level of 4 out of 10 feels generous at the moment, and that's not meant to be harsh. It's just the reality of how inconsistent this team has been. Still, this league is about proving people wrong. The Raiders have that chance this week. It's about showing that Geno can clean up the mistakes, that the young receivers can step forward, that the offensive line can hold the line even without its best piece. And while the offense has plenty to fix, the defense has been the one steady factor more often than not. 3 out of 4 games they've played well enough to win, and they'll need to keep that up. With Colton Miller out and the quarterback situation shaky, the defense has to remain the backbone of this team. Max Crosby is the heartbeat, and when he plays like he did last week, with tackles for loss, pass breakups, even an interception, you're reminded why he's one of the most feared defenders in the league. But one star alone can't do it all. The secondary has been banged up, with Eric Stokes nursing a knee issue and Kai Blue Kelly struggling mightily in coverage. That's a concern against an Indianapolis team that can spread the field with multiple receivers, led by Michael Pittman Jr. and a supporting cast that knows how to make plays in space. The safeties also have a critical role this week. Jeremy Chin has to be both a run stopper against Jonathan Taylor and a coverage asset against emerging tight ends. It's a dual assignment that demands discipline and physicality. The Colts lead the league in yards per play and have a knack for hitting chunk gains, especially once their ground game gets rolling. That's where the Raiders' back end must stay sharp. No blown tackles, no giving up the deep shot off play action. This is exactly the type of matchup where small mistakes turn into game-breaking plays. When you turn to the defensive front, everything begins with stopping the run, and that means all eyes on Jonathan Taylor. He's the engine of the Colts offense, and he's been piling up yards at a frightening pace. Over 70 carries, already for more than 400 yards, tells you exactly what kind of workload he's carrying, and the Raiders have to brace themselves for 20 or more touches heading his way. The defensive tackles struggled last week, missing tackles and losing the point of attack, and that simply can't happen again. If Taylor gets downhill with momentum, it's over. He thrives on breaking the first tackle and forcing safeties to clean up. That's not a recipe for success against a back who's among the best in the league. This has to be a collective effort. Rotation, fresh legs, gang tackling. Keep them bottled up early, and you might just make the Colts adjust their game plan. Fail to do that, and the play-action passing will come alive, leaving the secondary exposed. At linebacker, the story is just as critical. The Colts love to stress the second level by forcing linebackers to choose between biting on the run or dropping back into coverage. That's where they create mismatches with their tight ends, and Tyler Warren has been eating up defenses all year. He's physical, he's reliable, and he leads Indianapolis in receiving yards. That's not by accident. He's become a safety valve and the chain mover, and the Raiders cannot afford to let him roam free. Devin White and Landon Roberts have been inconsistent when asked to cover space, and if they can't hold their ground, Warren could become the difference maker. This is where Jermaine Pratt has to bring his best game. Aggressive but disciplined, quick to recognize routes while still being able to step up against the run. The linebackers will be tested snap after snap, and their ability to adapt will likely decide how many long drives the Colts put together. The other threat that cannot be overlooked is Daniel Jones's mobility. He may not be the first quarterback you think of when talking about dual-threat players, but he has quietly added first downs with his legs and already found the end zone multiple times on the ground. It's those broken plays, the ones where coverage is tight and the pocket collapses, that end up keeping drives alive. If the Raiders overcommit to Taylor and lose contain, Jones will make them pay by scrambling into open space. It sounds simple, but discipline on the edges and proper tackling angles are going to be vital. This is where Max Crosby's relentlessness can set the tone. He has to not only get after the quarterback, but do it in a way that prevents easy escape routes. Speaking of Crosby, his performance last week was one of those special outings that remind you just how rare he is. A defensive end with pass breakups, tackles for loss, and even an interception is not normal. He changes games by sheer will, and the Colts' offensive line knows they'll need to double him often. That could open opportunities for others. Malcolm Koonce flashed against the Bears, but this is the kind of week where he needs to prove it wasn't a fluke against a weakened line. Tyree Wilson moving inside could also be an interesting wrinkle, bringing speed against slower interior blockers. The Colts have allowed only 4 sacks so far, one of the lowest numbers in the league, and that's because their line is one of the best in protecting the passer. If the Raiders can generate real pressure against that unit, it's a statement, and it's the only way to disrupt Jones's rhythm. The secondary, as mentioned, is in a fragile spot. Injuries to Eric Stokes and Demarion Richardson leave the depth chart thin, and Kai Blue Kelly's struggles have been glaring. Against a team that spreads the field with 4 receivers, that's dangerous. Michael Pittman Jr. is their go-to option, the reliable chain mover who they trust in critical moments. He's their version of Jacoby Myers, and he will see plenty of targets. But the supporting cast, Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, and Adonai Mitchell, cannot be ignored. If the Raiders give too much attention to Pittman, those other names are more than capable of burning them. The fact that Las Vegas has used the fewest sub-packages in the league says it all. The coaches don't fully trust their corners. That's a problem when facing a team that thrives in spreading out defenses. Jeremy Chinn becomes the X factor here. He has to play almost 2 roles, part linebacker, part safety, while also making sure he doesn't get burned in coverage. His physicality is a weapon, but it has to be controlled. Isaiah Polamau, on the other hand, has been out of position too often. Playing him at free safety has been a liability, as his strength clearly lies in the box, where he can attack downhill. Until the Raiders figure out how to use him correctly, opponents will continue to target him. Against a Colts team averaging more than 6 yards per play, every mistake is magnified. One missed assignment, one poor angle, and it could be a touchdown. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Whispers from the NFL grapevine suggest that Quinnen Williams, the imposing defensive tackle, could soon be the centerpiece of a seismic shift in Las Vegas. Sources close to the matter hint that an agreement has been quietly struck, one that would place Williams right at the heart of the Raiders' defensive engine. While the details remain shrouded in secrecy, insiders describe the move as a statement. Las Vegas is not just building a team. They're constructing a fortress with Williams at its very core. Williams, known for his explosive presence and ability to dominate the line of scrimmage, has long been a coveted talent. Teams across the league have monitored his every step, but it seems the Raiders have moved decisively, locking in a deal that could redefine their defensive identity. The buzz around this potential signing has ignited speculation among fans and analysts alike, with some suggesting that this could mark the beginning of a new era in Sin City football. Behind the scenes, league sources suggest that negotiations were intense but swift. Williams reportedly expressed admiration for the Raiders' vision and their commitment to building a championship-caliber defense. While no official announcement has been made, the hint of a deal has already sent ripples through social media, fueling debate over what this acquisition could mean for the AFC West. Will the Raiders' defensive line become a nightmare for opposing quarterbacks? Could this move finally tip the scales in a division that has seen fierce competition in recent years? Even among veteran insiders, the excitement is palpable. Some liken Williams' potential impact to that of a chess grandmaster, capable of reshaping the dynamics of a game with a single, decisive move. Analysts are already predicting that his presence could inspire a domino effect, drawing other defensive talents to Las Vegas and signaling a shift in the balance of power. For now, it remains a tantalizing rumor, one that combines the drama of high-stakes negotiations with the raw thrill of what-ifs. If true, Quinnen Williams leading the Raiders' defensive core would not just be a headline. It could be a declaration. Las Vegas is serious, and they're building something that cannot be ignored. The NFL world waits, breathless, as this potential blockbuster quietly simmers behind closed doors. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.